a gather of beasts. Rodrigo was moments from tearing the neonate's head off. The beast threw the image of doing so into his mind's eye, and the Bruja scholar had to admit that it was not unpleasant. "Where are they? Thrice damned fool!" he roared. "What have you done with them?" Antoine sputtered incoherently, which only infuriated Rodrigo further. With an inarticulate cry of rage, he grabbed Antoine and threw him across the room. Rodrigo relished in the audible crack as the young Canaanite's neck snapped. "Do you realize what would happen if they fell into the wrong hands? The damage that would be done!" "You mean the damage that would be done to you?" Antoine croaked. "You shouldn't have written the damn things in the first place. My neck is broken, yes. If you were mortal, you'd be dead." Rodrigo began to pace, noting that Antoine was edging toward the door. "You say your wagons were raided. You say the manuscripts went missing. Who's behind the attack? Have you managed to trace the bandits? Have you done anything?" I... "Stop stuttering!" Rodrigo roared again. He was rapidly losing control of himself. He could feel the beast stirring, urging him forward. Blood, bite, revenge, now. Rodrigo paused. Were he mortal, he would have taken a deep breath. Instead, he drummed his fingers against his sides and considered. "Antoine, I apologize for my outburst. I apologize for laying hands on you. I understand your resources are limited, and that you have done your best. I can ask no more of you." He held out his hand. A little uncertainly, Antoine took it. Rodrigo hauled him abruptly to his feet. "But it is clear you can do no more for me, and your failure may endanger me yet. Farewell." He buried his fangs in Antoine's neck and drank deep. "Better. Now, Cornelia, I believe you have some information for me." The room was dark as always. Rodrigo could have seen into the darkness easily, but that would be a breach of etiquette. "Why, Rodrigo, you flattered me. After I heard of poor Antoine's fate, I realized that something important must be troubling him. So I made some inquiries. His estates were raided, as you know, and his wagons attacked. I believe I know who was behind this terrible violence." The voice was lilting and pleasant. Rodrigo would have imagined that Cornelia was beautiful, but the scent from her clothes said otherwise. "Don't play games. Name your price." "Oh, Rodrigo, you are such a disappointment sometimes. I wish nothing from you, save perhaps that you remember who your friends are, and that, if you were ever in a position to return a favor owed, you will do so with all the generosity of spirit your homeland is renowned for. I know many who have not found the Iberian Nights to their liking, dear lady, but you are certainly courteous enough to grace any of our fine courts. And as for recompense, I repay my debts as surely as I repay incompetence and betrayal." "My dear Rodrigo, are you threatening me?" Cornelia knew the answer very well, but Rodrigo gave it anyway. "Not at all. The information. The usurpers were behind the raid. They have begun to extend their reach beyond their homelands. I suggest that you aim your search in that direction. You might look for a Tremere warrior who has been sniffing around your feral brethren in Lithuania." "Tremere? Never met one. I'm sure they can't be worse than the rabble who surround us now." "I'm sure they're not. But do be careful. Those lands are dreadfully uncivilized. But I'm sure a big, strong zealot like yourself has nothing to worry about, does he?" Rodrigo smirked, but had nothing else to say. Rodrigo shoved the man-at-arms aside, then dropped his shoulder and charged the La Sombra. He easily knocked her down, but as he reached for the dagger he kept in his boot, he spotted tendrils of shadow already reaching for him. He rolled away to his left, toward the fire. Cursing, he reached in and grabbed the unburned end of a faggot and flung it toward the shadow. The La Sombra flinched. The moment's distraction was all Rodrigo needed. He launched himself at the Magister, grabbing his sword from the belly of the man he had pinned to the wall. Swinging wildly, the blade bit deep into the other Cainite. Obviously unused to true combat, the La Sombra shrieked in pain and rage. "Yes! Feel it! Let it out! The beast may save you yet!" Rodrigo yelled. The La Sombra screamed again and lunged forward, a mad light in her eyes. One pass from Rodrigo's sword brought the La Sombra to her knees. Another removed her head. "Or perhaps you kept it caged too long," he mused almost regretfully. Rodrigo surveyed the carnage. One of the men-at-arms was still kicking feebly, trying to crawl to the door. Rodrigo grabbed him by the belt and lifted him easily, his powerful frame barely registering the weight. He sunk his teeth into the man's neck and drank deep, then threw him to the ground. "Damn this temper of mine," he muttered. "I really must learn to control myself." "Did you really need to kill them all?" came a voice. "Leola, good to see you. This young magister demanded to know my business in her domain. Then she took offense when I told her my business was my own." He looked about the rectory and gestured, as if hoping one of the deceased would speak up to support him. "I had no wish for this. You know why I'm here?" Leola stepped into the room. She was stocky and muscular, naked and covered in dirt. "I do. The one you seek has been traveling with me for some time. His name is Gerard. I am teaching him our road. I believe he will come to it. But he does not have your letters and does not even know of them. Why don't you join us? We're heading for a gathering north of Riga. You know it." I haven't been to a gathering in this part of the world. And I would be curious indeed to meet a Tremere interested in our road. Perhaps I will come. What about all this?" Leola waved her arm, indicating the carnage Rodrigo's fight had caused. Rodrigo did not answer, but merely threw a lantern against one of the bodies. By the time the building was burning, he and Leola were already on the road. "I am Karach, and I am Rodrigo. Why should I not kill you?" Rodrigo looked the Mongol up and down. He was swarthy, just as the story said. His build was compact and muscular, certainly shorter and lighter than his own, but there was a quality to him that even Rodrigo found alien. Perhaps he thought it was the Mongol's eyes, flat and expressionless. They betrayed no emotion, no desire. "Because I am looking for something, and I think you may be able to help me. I met many ferals at the gathering, yet one caught my attention, a Tremere named Gerard. He knew nothing of my quest, but now I'm wondering if we cannot help each other." Having been seated beside Rodrigo until now, Leola stood. "I have been watching the Tremere, here in Lithuania. They do not conform to the ways of Sioris. Their pagan practices have raised the interest of sponsors far away. The usurpers have sent spies to observe their Lithuanian cousins." Rodrigo scowled. "A war among the usurpers would not displease me. But the locals, Telyavs," said Karach. "The Telyavs are friendly to our cause and to our ways. I would spare them. They are good allies, though they may not think of themselves as such." "What do you want of me?" Karach asked. "For now, little," said Leola. "We will investigate further, but if the time comes to strike, we would have you with us." Karach regarded the pair for a moment. They met his gaze squarely. "I make my home here. It is a secret from most. I would not have it known to all. You will have my help." The chantry was well hidden, nestled in a deep valley. It was shielded by thick forests. A small carriage lurched toward the inner gate. The night was cold and windy, whipping a light drizzle into a sideways slurry that seeped under doors and around window frames. The carriage stopped at the gate. The gargoyle perched atop the wall craned its neck slowly, sniffing the air. It looked at the wagon and stretched its wings. The men on the gate hurried out of the guardhouse to let the carriage out, splashing through thick mud, smelling of damp earth and horse shit. The gates creaked outward on their hinges. Suddenly the gargoyle stiffened. It let out a piercing shriek and leapt down at the carriage. Two figures burst out, a man and woman. They sprinted for the now rapidly closing gate. The gargoyle bounded off the roof of the carriage and leapt for the man. The woman, meanwhile, charged the guards. She killed one with a single swipe of her taloned hand. He gurgled and wheezed as bright blood shot from his neck, spraying the wall behind him for an instant before the rain washed it away. To his credit, the second guard fought well and did not panic. He swung his axe and followed through with a swipe from his dagger. The woman, however, did not even wince from the wound. She grabbed his wrist and squeezed, shattering bones in her grip. His dagger found its mark again, but the woman only grinned. She slammed him back against the wall, then tore his throat out with her teeth. She looked up. Through the rainy haze she could see figures hastening from the chantry. "Rodrigo, come on!" she yelled. "Just a moment," he grunted. The gargoyle smashed into him, and he felt his ribs crack. It wrapped its arms around him and began to squeeze and snapped at him with its fangs. Rodrigo scrambled backward, carrying the monster with him. He freed his arms and began to force its maw away. With a wild shriek, the woman swung the guardsman's axe. It nearly severed the monster's head. Ichor seeped from the wound, pooling in the mud. "Many thanks," Rodrigo growled as he pulled himself away from the corpse's grasp. "Now let's go, Leola." "Leola! I said let's go!" Leola stood with her back to him, panting. He could see her hands clenching and unclenching. "We have to go now!" Leola looked back at him. Her face was contorted into a snarl. Something passed behind her eyes, and she shook her head. Then she turned and ran. "Tell me again why I thought this was a good idea." Leola looked back over her shoulder at Rodrigo as he pulled his boots out of a puddle of sucking mud. The drizzle had not let up all night, nor had the pursuit. For the moment they seemed to have evaded the Tremere. "Because it was the only way to find out. That damn Tremere is going to cause us a lot of trouble. He'll cause us a lot more if we don't go back and get him out. Damn them!" She glared back in the direction of the valley. "So why did you teach him?" "Because we need allies, otherwise our nights are numbered. The cities grow, the princes extend their grasp. If we could gain the Tremere's understanding, we could destroy them all." "Well, my dear, I don't think there's much chance of that now." Rodrigo shook his head in disgust. He hadn't expected such a reception from the Tremere. "Are you serious? You think we need to get him out?" "You might not have found whatever it was that you were looking for, but I found Gerard. He was my pupil, and they were torturing him to extract a confession." Unsure of how to react to this news, concern, anger, Rodrigo merely nodded. "You sound very fond of him." "He knows too much. You met him at the gathering. You mocked him for being a soldier. Remember?" I suppose you're right. We'll need to act quickly. If these Tremere run true to form, they'll hoard all their information until they're ready to use it to discomfit a rival chantry. Rodrigo angrily knocked a branch out of his way. "Will these woods never end?" "It's not much farther. Wait, did you hear that?" Leola stiffened and leaned into the wind. "Hear what?" Without answering, Leola leapt away. A crossbow bolt thudded into a sodden tree behind where she had just stood. Rodrigo whirled and drew his blade. It was Damascene steel, deadly sharp and in need of no enchantment. "To hell with this running," he muttered. Then he grinned. His beast howled in delight as he let it out, taking over all but the barest essentials of his mind. Lightning struck as Rodrigo bellowed his challenge to 3 Cainites who stood silhouetted in the southern light. Rodrigo smiled at them. He saw Leola dropping silently out of a tree behind the closest. Food, sport, blood. Rodrigo's grin widened, and he charged as the lightning flashed again. You must help us, Leola said. The chantry is well guarded, but not impregnable, and they have Gerard. He is one of us. He was at the gathering. What do I care of his fate? Garach asked. You were at the gathering, too. He might not know who you are. He might not have seen you, but he might have, and you are being sought. Can you afford the risk? Garach settled back. He closed his eyes. Leola glanced nervously at Rodrigo and Grandfather. It was Grandfather who broke the silence. His voice came like wind through the trees, soft, and yet impossible to ignore. The times are moving against us. Your brothers ride forth from the east. The princes press on our lands from the west. Your allies, these Teliaveic Tremere, may well fall if news of Gerard's confession travels beyond the walls of his chantry. Where then will your protection be? Yes, listen to Grandfather, Leola added, a touch too eager in Rodrigo thought. He decided to add his thoughts to the conversation. Garach, you are known to only a few of us. We need your right arm in this struggle. This chantry, they are collecting information, prisoners, documents, about us, how to defeat us. Your fate is at stake too. Will you not help? Together, we three can break in, destroy their records, free Gerard, and escape. Garach kept his eyes closed. Then he spoke. This I will not do. We will hunt. We will gather again, and make war on the sorcerer's home. We will destroy it, and all within it. We will be feared. None will dare stand against us, and the usurpers will leave our lands. How do we get in? Whispered Leola. Well, I know you scoff at us grey hunters, but knowing how to move and hunt in polite society has its advantages. There is an ambassador from the baronies of Avalon in the chantry, Henry. Been there for months. He's also a fellow. I left him a message on our last visit. He's going to arrange a distraction for the gargoyles. Damn things. Rodrigo rubbed his shoulder, which still bore a long scar from the gargoyle's bite. Leola flinched and dropped low to the ground as a resounding boom echoed from the chantry. There it is. Impressive, murmured Rodrigo. Squatting under a tree, Garach laughed. Time to kill, he said. He then stood and broke into a loping run toward the building. The night was clear and the moon full. A fire had broken out in a far corner of the chantry, but it was clearly no natural fire. The flames had a greenish tinge, and explosions and tortured screams punctuated the cries of panic. Then the first wave of ferals, nearly a dozen in all, began scaling the walls and entering the buildings. Garach, Rodrigo, Leola, and Grandfather all waited by the gate. A massive feral, nearly 8 feet tall and built like a colossus, smashed his mailed fists against the gates. Splinters flew in all directions. Soon he had punched a hole and was reaching for the crossbar when blue sparks flew from the door. The door itself was untouched, but the feral flew back, his arm disintegrating. Howling in pain, he leapt to his feet and ran off into the woods. Grandfather chuckled, then whistled. Momentarily, a feral appeared on the other side and lifted the bar. Casually, they strode in. Good work, Lucas. Grandfather nodded approvingly as he stepped through the maze of severed body parts. Garach turned to the trio. Now I hunt. He ran off. I'm going to find Gerard, if he isn't Ash by now, said Leola. Time enough, I think, for me to destroy their records, replied Rodrigo. He drew his sword, then they both ran to the main chantry house. Time enough for me to feed, Grandfather chuckled. He slipped off his robe and ran with surprising speed towards the barracks. Leola burst into a small stone room somewhere beneath the chantry. Gerard was strapped to a rack. The body of the guard left with him hung from the wall, the long cloak peg protruding from his throat. Still alive. He twitched and kicked. Occasionally gurgling noises escaped from his throat. She reached down and undid the straps. Her pupil was wasted. The Tremere knew how to torture a victim. "Here, drink some of this before we go," she said, as she led Gerard to the guard. "But don't take too long. We must hurry." Rodrigo strode to the ruins of the chantry. He found the library and the scribes' rooms, but they were empty of Canaanites. He was hunting for the Canaanite who had expressed a keen interest in matters of philosophy and the spiritual side of Canaanite existence. At last he had found his prey. "Xavier, so nice to meet you again." Normally Xavier might have given Rodrigo a witty retort, but at the moment he was too terrified and pained to do so. Rodrigo didn't continue with niceties. "Where are the books?" Xavier spat blood at him. It didn't show on Rodrigo's already gore-soaked garb. I think you'll wish to help me reclaim what's mine, my friend. Does it hurt when I do this?" He leaned on the beam that had fallen from the dining hall's roof and impaled the Canaanite as he fled. "Curse you, animal! Beast! I have read your words. You have betrayed your kind by writing them. Wait until they find out what you have done!" "You do not understand. I want my manuscripts back. Who do you think brought this about? Who tipped your captain off about Gerard? Who urged the Ferals to make this attack? Who has destroyed your chantry? I am hunting for something that is mine, and I will not be denied. Now speak! Where are they?" This beam is coming loose." He twisted the beam again. Xavier squeezed his eyes shut as a bloody tear ran down his cheek. As calm as Rodrigo's face appeared, his beast was howling for Xavier's blood. He almost didn't notice when the warlock began whispering something in a language Rodrigo had never heard before. "Damn you!" he shouted. His sword flashed and Xavier's head rolled free. Rodrigo's shoulders slumped. "I must learn to control that temper of mine." He kicked absently at Xavier's rapidly decaying body and stalked back to the library. The Ferals stood at the gate of the chantry. It was a smoking ruin. The attack had been a success. Taken off guard, the Tremere had fought back, but the Ferals had been too fast, too savage. Leola stood. Gerard squatted beside her. Rodrigo trudged toward them. "I see you found what you sought," he said sourly. "Congratulations. I take it that you did not." "No, but I will keep searching." A movement made them both turn. It was Karak. He looked pleased, content like a cat licking blood from its paws. "A good night. Good hunting." He sniffed the air. "But there is more to come."